Hello, 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 and welcome back to the podcast. Happy 200th episode. Woo! We have made it to 200. That is just freaking crazy. Especially thinking that this June, which is just in a couple of months, we will have made it to 4 years. That's also just incredible. So happy almost 4 years here in a couple months and happy 200th episode. If you've been following along, you know that after this week, we will be going bi-weekly because I will be debuting a new episode, or I'm sorry, I will be debuting a new podcast called the Positive Podcast for all you pet parents out there and all you animal advocates out there. So stay tuned. That is going to be everywhere you can find podcasts just like this one. And that one will be debuting next week on March 24th. So every Monday, you'll get a new podcast episode. It just will be bi-weekly in terms of which one you're going to get, right? So you will get on the off weeks, you will get this podcast, and on the opposite weeks, you will get the Positive Podcast. So yeah, I'm super freaking pumped for that. But today I'm also bringing you the highly anticipated, the long awaited episode on long COVID. You know, if you've heard me talk about it on social media, I have said I don't really feel like I've seen people talking about this that much, whether it be just, out and about, you know, chatting with people, whether it be on a podcast, whether it be on the news. It's just not widely talked about. And so I really wanted to bring this episode to the podcast because it's something that I think we need more discussion about. And I don't know about you, but I've had COVID now. So, I can speak to what it feels like, and the after effects, right? And I know that some people are fortunate enough to have COVID and then not, have any repercussions after that, not have any long COVID symptoms. But for those of us like myself who do and have, um, this is an episode for you. So I hope also those of you who don't have long COVID symptoms, maybe you can listen in and help somebody else in the process having listened to this episode, or share it with someone who is dealing with some long COVID symptoms. So this episode hopefully will reach far and wide to a large swath of individuals, and that's truly my goal. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, my hair is a little bit all over the place because I just got it cut, so it's hard to keep it tame. Okay. It's also early-ish in the morning when I'm recording this, so we haven't done any product with it. We haven't, moved our body yet at this point in time. So we haven't gotten a shower. So, that's where we be right now. So just, give my hair a little bit of a break for you before you think it looks like a hot mess. You also know that I'm real raw and me, right? So this you're getting me in the morning before the day has really begun. So that is that. But like always, I want to share with you exactly where we're headed with this episode. So I'm gonna just give you the bullet points, if you will, of what we're gonna be focused on today. And as always, when we reach the end of the episode, if there's something that you still have questions about, if there's, a follow-up conversation you want to have, please make sure you either one, chat with me in my DMs on social media, or two, I would say probably the easiest way is there is a section at the very top of the show notes where you can send me a text. Send me a text there and it'll come directly to my inbox, and I can get in touch with you and converse back and forth, and hopefully either answer your questions or provide more insight, whether it be through conversations we have or in another follow-up episode. So that is that. But like I said, let's get into it. So today we are going to be talking, like I said, about long COVID. Okay. So I really want to hit on a couple main points. First of all, we're going to talk about what is long COVID. What's the definition of it? It's constantly changing, but what is it right now? Then we're going to go into some of the myriad symptoms that come with long COVID. Okay. And then we're going to dive into like treatments and course of action. All right. And finally, I really want to share with you some stats, specifically for me, digestive symptoms that have come with long COVID. So we're going to go over some digestive distress statistics as it relates to these things onsetting after having COVID as a part of long COVID. So that's where we're headed. That's where we're going. I will also share with you part of my journey too in this process, just so that you can get you know, a real life example of how this has manifested, if you will, in my life. Um, so yeah, let's dive into it. All right. So first things first, what is long COVID? Okay. Like I said just a moment ago, it's constantly changing the definition. But right now, according to Mayo Clinic, long COVID is a long-lasting chronic condition triggered by the virus that causes COVID-19. Okay. Um, it typically lasts 3 months, but it can last up to 6 months or longer. Okay, I'm in that 3 month period right now. I've really only had these symptoms for about a month. Not even, maybe 2.5, 3 weeks. Um, so I'm curious to see, where things head, and maybe I'll have to do a follow-up episode here in 3 to 6 months to let you know where things are. Again, if you'd like that, let me know. Send me a message in the text message feature of the show notes, and I will gladly do that if that's something of your interest. But yeah, right now what we're seeing is roughly 3 to 6 months, but again, it could last longer, could be years, just depending upon the person and the case, the severity, all that stuff. Okay. Also, if you're hearing jingle jangles, I got all my pals, all my fur pals with me today. You can see Riker's tail here in the corner of the screen. We're all hanging. It's a rainy, cloudy day, so we're just hanging, chilling here on the couch in our living space. So it be what it be. All right. So let's dive into the long COVID symptoms. Okay. This is um, this is a list of some of the most common. That being said, if I don't list something that you have, please know that, there are more than what I'm going to share, right? That every day we're learning new things about long COVID. So if it's not something that I cover, just know that it's probably something that's going to be, a hot topic in the near future, because it's something that is now becoming of more prevalent and more widespread. So please just know that these are the current, as of right now in 2025, these are the most common symptoms. Okay. So um I think it's important to note, again, from Mayo Clinic, that in research studies, more than 200 symptoms have been linked to long COVID. I'm not going to be listing 200 symptoms like I just said here. Um, and symptoms may stay the same over time. They may get worse, or they may go away and come back. So, there's just a very wide range of how these symptoms present themselves. Okay. Some of the most common long COVID symptoms include extreme tiredness, especially after activity, problems with memory, often called brain fog, a feeling of being lightheaded or dizzy, and problems with taste or smell. I know that is a symptom that some people have during COVID, but that can last even after having COVID as a long COVID symptom. Okay. Other symptoms of long COVID can include sleep problems, shortness of breath, coughing or headache, faster irregular heartbeat, digestion problems such as loose stool, constipation, that's me, or bloating. And then it's also important to note that some people with long COVID have other illnesses. Hello, also me. Diseases caused or made worse by long COVID can include migraines, lung disease, autoimmune disease. Hello, that's me. And chronic kidney disease. Okay. And it's important to note that diseases that people may be diagnosed with due to long COVID could include heart disease, mood disorders, anxiety, stroke or blood clots, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, also known as POTS, um, chronic fatigue syndrome, mast cell activation syndrome, fibromyalgia, diabetes, and hyperlipidemia. So, I mean, just a swath of um, different conditions that can have an onset after having COVID. It's really important to also note that long COVID symptoms can show up weeks or months after you have seemed to have recovered from COVID, from having your COVID bout. Um, but it's also really important to note that long COVID symptoms, long COVID issues, cannot spread like COVID. So, if you're having digestive issues after having COVID and you feel that's a long COVID symptom that you have, that's not something you can spread to other people, thank goodness. Okay. So let's dive into the treatments and course of action. Okay. First things first, it's important to set up an appointment with your PCP and share your symptoms. For me, my symptoms were so god awful that at the time they presented themselves the worst, it was the weekend. So I went to the urgent care. My place is called the same day center. But if you have a same day center, urgent care center that's open, throughout the weekend, I would encourage you to go as soon as the symptoms present themselves, and when you feel, you're like, I can't do this, right? These things, you're maybe trying things at home, it's not getting better. I would go as soon as possible. Okay. The place that I went was my first time going. I had gone to like a minute clinic, and other urgent cares, and the place that I'm going now that's linked to my PCP, it's called a same day center, was phenomenal. They did blood work, just were very thorough, and it wasn't like a quick in and out trying to get through all the patients. They really took their time to understand what I was going through and really dig deep. So if you have a place like that, or you know of a place, maybe someone's recommended a place like that to you, I would highly encourage that be the place that you go, just to get the best quality treatment plan and next steps for you moving forward. Okay. Um, I'm just going to give you kind of a couple little side tangent things here related to treatments and courses of actions. For those of you that might have symptoms of pain, breathlessness, or brain fog, it's important, obviously, to find a treatment plan that's going to work best for you with your healthcare provider. And this may include you getting some sort of a medicine that maybe you don't even have a prescription, right? It could be a prescription, could even be a supplement that you're going to try, or maybe some referrals of other healthcare workers that you can follow up with that can pinpoint specific pain points for you. Okay. For those that have a loss of taste or smell, there you might need to go through a process of retraining your nerves that are involved in the process of you might need to, excuse me, blah, 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 blah. You might need to go through a process to retrain your nerves. Um, so that is called olfactory training. And for people with POTS or a fast heartbeat, a healthcare provider may suggest a prescription medication as well as a plan to make sure that you're continuing to stay hydrated. Okay. For those of you that have constipation as a symptom, for me, that has been my number one, well, I should say really my number one issue, but I also have a second issue. So I'll talk about both, but my number one issue throughout all of this has been constipation, and I'll give you some interesting stats on that here in just a little bit. What I did, of course, was first go to the same day center. They did blood work. All my blood work came back great. And I mean, not just like my blood work came back normal, or I'm sorry, my blood work came back like optimal for everything. So like I'm in good health, which is great, but that doesn't account for things like constipation, right? That's not going to show up a in blood work. So what I ended up doing for that was I started with magnesium. That did diddly squat for me. Then I did Miralax. That also did not do anything for me. Then I did the Dulcolax tablets. Now, I have a sensitive stomach, and every time I've taken those, even when I have to take them as part of the regimen for prepping for a colonoscopy, it always makes my stomach hurt. So, and like cramp really bad. So I did that. It did produce diarrhea. So, I mean, it did help, get stuff out, but then it made me very dehydrated. That did show up in my blood work, that I was dehydrated, even though I was pumping my whole body full of fluids to try and recoup that. Um, so then what I ended up doing was, I apologize. We had a little snafu here with dogs barking for a moment. But what I ended up doing, like I said, was after the Dulcolax tablets, which didn't go well with me, I ended up doing probiotics. I'm actually taking two. One is just a digestive probiotic, and another one is a digestive, or I'm sorry, a probiotic plus fiber. It's a gummy. So one's a capsule and one's a gummy. I'm taking both of those. I can't say that either of those are really producing like the effects that I'm now feeling. But what I can, like, the positive movements forward, if you will. But what I can say is the last thing that I've implemented now is the Dulcolax chews. And those are actually really helping. They say that they're cramp free, and they are. And it's actually helping me to produce stool, which is great. I eat very clean, very healthy for, like 98.9% of the time. So it's not that I am eating trash. It's truly that my body is just out of whack, because of going through COVID. And like I said, I will get to the stats on that here in just a little bit. The other thing that I do want to mention, because like I said, my number one symptom is and was still is constipation, but my second one was acid reflux. I was pretty sure that that's what I had. And based off of obviously my blood work coming back great, and the follow-up from the healthcare worker at the same day center. That's what I have. So she prescribed Prevacid, which is an antacid. It's a little bit less intense on the body than say like the omeprazole and I can't think of the other one. But anyways, that is what I'm taking right now. I have enough for like 5 refills, like for 5 months, but I am, after I'm done with the 1 month of it, I'm gonna take myself off of it. I might even go off of it before because I'm not feeling the effects of that anymore, which is great. But I want to just make sure that, I'm good to go. So I'm just giving myself a little bit of extra grace time with that. But yes, I did and still do have constipation. It's getting better. So, we're trending in the right direction. And then I feel like I'm moving out of the issue with acid reflux. So that's also great too, because that's not something that I've, as an adult, have really have ever dealt with. So, that being said, I do want to talk about, like I said, a couple quick stats that I found pretty interesting as it relates to digestive issues coinciding with having had COVID. So this is from 147 patients that had no prior gastrointestinal problems. 16% of them reported having new digestive symptoms roughly 100 days after their COVID-19 infection. This was according to a study published in March of 2022. And the most common symptoms included abdominal pain, which was 7.5% of those people. And then another 6.8% of those people had constipation as a side effect. So interesting. And then also, just in general, GI symptoms have been known to occur in 29% of patients in 6 months after recovery from COVID-19. And among these, reflux symptoms were reported in 27%. So like roughly a third of people that have had COVID 19 or just COVID, roughly a third end up having gastro issues in some way, shape, or form, which I think is just wild. And hello, that would be me. I'm one of those, one of the third, one of the third people that are in that group. So lucky me. But that's that. I hope again, as always, that this was helpful for you. Please share this with those that you think would benefit, especially if you know someone who is having some of these symptoms. Please share it. I hope the big takeaway is to not discount your symptoms and truly go seek professional help because that's what I did. I did take some of the matters into my own hands, but I also have been utilizing, the professional support and healthcare around me. So please definitely, do that as well. And again, if there's any follow-ups that you want to have on the podcast related to this topic or others, please feel free to DM me on social media or send me a text message in the show notes. I'm happy to do any and all of that for you. And yes, I will see you in 2 weeks because next week we will have the debut of the Positive Podcast. So I hope you'll come over and check that out. You can listen to that on all podcast platforms. And yeah, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week and we will chat later. Take care.